are rolling. You can call to order when ready. Madam Chair, you're muted. We cannot hear you anymore.
I can hear her.
Councilor Kraus, can you hear me?
One more time.
I can hear you.
Hello, testing.
Go ahead, Madam Chair. Go ahead, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you, and once again, welcome to everybody in the room, present and online. Thank you for coming. I am Adrienne Barboa, and I call this August 21, 2025 hybrid meeting of the Local Government Coordinating Council to order. Vice Chair Jackson, APS member Benavides, and Commissioner Benson are excused. I, Chair Barboa, will be appearing via Zoom. So we'll start off right away with our silent invocation and pledge of allegiance. Let's take a moment of silence. All who are able to rise and for the pledge. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Thanks for all for being here tonight. We'll start off right away with item number 3, public comment. Bit of a note, everyone. Javier, how many do we have signed up to speak?
We have no public speakers tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. We will continue on. Item number 4, new business. We'll now hear new business, starting with A, opioid settlement updates. Is Ms. Ellen Braden and John Lansott available to present?
Madam Chair, you also have the old DCM for behavioral health for Bernalillo County.
I love it, my favorite. Thank you, Dr. Lindstrom.
Thank you. With me is Ellen Braden, as Madam Chair indicated a moment ago, and behind me is John Lochto, who does everything related to IT and data work for us, and I also have Amber Salazar, who's our senior manager over our Department of Operational Supports, and Erica Beta does everything related to prevention, including Keep New Mexico Alive. And then I've also got my special projects coordinator, Kim McManus. So with that, I will turn it over to John, unless you have anything you want to add.
No, John's the expert tonight.
All right, thank you, Wayne and Ellen. Thank you, councilors and commissioners. Today I'm presenting an update on the public accountability dashboard that was recommended by this commission in the Joint Opioid Settlement Implementation Plan. Do we have the slides pulled up?
Do not.
Oh, okay. So I will try to describe what's on the slides as best I can as we go through. So I'll start with a quick summary of the content of the dashboard. So we're going to have 2 different groups of measures to help provide public accountability for our opioid settlement funds. We'll have financial measures, which include details on appropriations, receipts, and expenditures, and we'll also have accountability measures. The accountability measures will be aligned with the behavioral health result measures, which Bernalillo County currently uses with its own programs and contracts. And these result measures will enable us to answer 3 key questions about our funded programs. So how much are we doing? How well are we doing it? And most importantly, did we make a difference? We will align these questions with 2 different categories that we plan to fund: the opioid intervention and treatment outcomes, and opioid prevention and community revitalization outcomes. In order to deploy this dashboard, Bernalillo IT has installed a new public dashboard program called Tableau. This is going to enable us to publish this dashboard across all 3 of our stakeholder websites, APS, Bernalillo County, and the city. So there are several different steps that we'll need to take in order to actually get to a public accountability dashboard. The first piece of this will be executing contracts, which of course is already ongoing. So from recent LGCC legislation, $2 million from the city and county for small and medium providers. The RFP is closed and is currently under review. $10 million for city capital is out as a grant process, and this will close in mid-October. And APS's intergovernmental agreement is routing for execution. In the meantime, the city is able to execute a stopgap IGA in order to allow APS to hire and start up those programs. And as we move forward, we'll also include other allocations for city and county programs as those funds are expended. A second piece is once we execute those contracts and we'll start collecting data from our contractors in a format that allows us to publicly report on the measures. And then as we receive that preliminary data, we can start actually designing the public accountability dashboard using that data. And we're going to partner with folks just like the LGCC across the city, county, and APS. And that design process is something that will be led by Vital Strategies, their consultant, which was part of that agreement. They're going to be leading a community-centered design process. That process is going to include engaging employees, engaging elected officials, engaging the subject matter experts that we need in order to make sure that the data aligns with what we ultimately want to report out to the public. And then they're going to be responsible for making sure that we have a regular reporting cadence for actually updating that dashboard and making presentations for that. They'll be responsible for helping putting together the visualizations and the written context for that dashboard. So it's not just numbers, it's also the narrative around what our programs and services are doing. And they'll be responsible for also making sure that those updates are honest and transparent. So we want to make sure that we're looking at both progress and disruptions as those funds are expended. They'll be responsible for also providing avenues for public feedback, not only in forums like this, but also just soliciting feedback from the public. So yeah, that's the overview of the steps for that dashboard design process. We really look forward to partnering with you and other stakeholders as we move forward with that. And I stand for questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lancet. I hope I'm saying your name right. I do have one question, and since I can't see in the room, I'll ask Julie to maybe field any other questions that folks have. But my first question is, when can we expect for it to be live?
Yeah, so a lot of those timelines are going to be dependent on contract execution as well as when we start receiving information from our providers. So it's really hard to give a timeline right now. I would expect within the next 3 to 6 months, we'd be able to report back in order to give you a more solid timeline for when that dashboard would go live.
And can I, to that, I'll ask one more question and then we'll go to my colleagues. It just, I'm imagining that a big part of this, we want to see where on the public dashboard, where our dollars went out. And then of course, like you said, thank you for setting up robust evaluation so we could see if what impact they're making. How much of this relies on, because I know right now I hear a lot of like, oh, we have this system, but people don't all use it, the HMIS or the new Unitas. And so if there's any processes that are being put in place to make sure we actually get the data we need, how is that going along?
Yes, so that's a great question. So we try to set up a system that's independent of any particular system that a contractor or program is currently using and making sure that they submit that data on a monthly basis. So within Bernalillo County, we've set that up where we receive that data from our contractors on a monthly basis, and we'd want to replicate that process for this dashboard as well.
Wonderful, thank you. And any other questions for my colleagues, please? Julie, help them.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilor Rogers here. I have a couple questions. For the accountability measures, I know we had quite a few. Why did we just choose 2 to report on the dashboard?
Oh, sorry. So yeah, those are only 2 domains of measures that we're talking about. There are additional measures on top of those domains and there are dozens of measures within those domains. If we'd like a complete list, we can give that to you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yes.
And then other question is the IGA for APS, does it include funding for this dashboard out of their appropriation? Because that was something I was very vocal about. All three entities should be paying for this. So does our IGA with APS state that they will be paying for some of this dashboard?
Councilor Rogers, so included in the scopes in the IGA is the expectation that they will participate in the dashboard. Regarding a specific line item, I'd have to go back and look, but the expectation is laid out that they will be contributing to the dashboard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Contributing data or money?
Yes, but I will double check on the scopes, Councilor Rogers.
Please do. That's
Yes.
very important to me that they're paying their fair share and that they are also in that IGA required to give us their data that should also be in this dashboard.
Madam Chair, Councilor Rogers, yes.
Thank you. The other question I have, Madam Chair, is just it follows up from your question about are our agreements with our providers going to say they must give us this money, this data monthly in order to get paid, their invoices to get paid?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, yes, that is correct.
Wonderful. Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Madam Chair, if I might go back to your question about what's the estimated time of implementation. And the reality is that John gave you the best answer. And something that he and I haven't talked about is that I believe we can phase this in before we actually have the dashboard. We can put together a chart basically showing, for example, with the current solicitation that we've had out for the $4 million for small and medium-sized providers, there were 21 proposals that were submitted. So as we review those and we have contracts in place, et cetera, we can simply post those providers, the amount, what it was for, et cetera, and we don't have to wait until the dashboard's completed to be able to do that incremental reporting.
Thank you so much. That is so incredibly important. And that's what we just all want to sort of see of the community as well, right? Like who's involved, who's being part of this, how are things getting distributed? So thank you so much. Thank both of you, all three of you, for presenting on this. Any other questions? Well, exciting. And we've committed to hearing updates at every meeting. So we'll hear in the next 2 months again back from you. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And item number 4B, update on housing funding from the state legislature. Our amazing county manager, Cindy Chavez, to present.
Thank you so much. I'm really honored to present to all of you. This is my first time getting to do that. I've been in the crowd for a few of your meetings. And I'm here today with, you all know Marcos actually, but he's our leader on not just economic development, but has taken a leadership role in housing and done double duty. He and his team have been remarkable. So what you have in front of you is as big a print as I needed, so I apologize for how large those are. That's a reflection of my old eyes. And what I want to do is I'm going to run you through some slides and then take questions, and I'm looking forward to tag teaming with my colleague, Sam. So as you all know, during the legislative cycle, Bernalillo County and the city of Albuquerque, and one group we left out of here, and I apologize, is the Housing Collaborative, worked really hard to take a list that was developed through the collaborative, take it back through both the city and the county. And when we did that, at that time, I think the original ask was for $189 million that would include some behavioral health dollars. What came out of the legislative cycle, as you all know, is $110 million that was set aside for housing. There was an additional $40 million in state funds that when the governor put the leadership of this work under Secretary Nair, the pot got a little bigger, and I think that was actually really intentional because I think they were trying to figure out how do we deal with all of these needs and issues and being as flexible as they could be with different pots of money. The county's approach was really a reflection on the current structure and status that we use as a county in terms of how we engage in housing. For a very long time, the county's housing focus had been using economic development tools to really spur and support affordable housing. We were now and doing some transitional housing, but now moving into a process of doing much more transitional housing and looking at playing a leadership role in both gap financing and spurring opportunities for housing. So one of those areas is that when we were going through this legislative process, the county, in collaboration with the city, was really focused on trying to get 1,000 people off the streets by next June. And part of the reason we set such an audacious goal was we wanted to be able to demonstrate to the legislature and also to our communities that all the amazing work that's going on that people would know that we were quantifying it and we were going to be able to tell a concrete story about the changes that were being made. So together, and this was really in partnership with the city of Albuquerque, and I do want to just make one point about the city. I am now in month 9 being here, maybe 10 now. And I have been, and I came from the city of San Jose. I was vice mayor of that city. I was a county commissioner. I ran a bunch of nonprofits. And I've looked at, and I played a leadership role in getting a $950 million housing bond there. The amount of work that had already been done by the county here and the city of Albuquerque is impressive on any measure throughout the country. And the reason I'm sharing that with you is I know you have a lot of people coming at you saying we should be doing more and more and more, and we should be striving for excellence and to get every person off the streets. That's really our job. But I do want you to just take a moment. I know it's hard to say. We're doing really good work, and I just have been very, very impressed both with the city and with what I found here at the county. So one of the other additions that I just wanted to highlight is that under the leadership in particular of Commissioner Barbara Baca, we've been looking at developing a good neighbor policy. And as part of that good neighbor policy, that policy would also include an approach to how the addition of these new neighbors and these new homes will revitalize the communities around them, that is a critical hand-in-hand body of work. And again, it's something that I worked on really heartily in California, but of course Commissioner Baca is pushing us to do better and more. So, all right, there you go. You got your plug there. I heard you. I'm with you. All right. So what you'll see here is that the approach the county took is that we wanted to get an opportunity to streamline the way that we were producing and approaching housing. And so what we did was, in partnership with the state, we went to the state and pitched them on this idea of allowing us to put forward a list of housing options and giving the state the opportunity to choose which fit into their process. And part of the reason we did that is that the county really divided the list up, and I'll show it to you in just a moment, to be able to focus on gap financing for housing that would break ground before December. Because, really they have till June 30th, but we want them to break ground now. That we would be investing in transitional housing that we'd be able to purchase and move people in within 30 days of the date of the closure of the purchase. And in addition to that, we were looking at properties that were already developed, that were on the market, and in particular those properties that would be market rate housing that we could transition into affordable housing. This became particularly important to us as we were thinking about families, because so many developments don't have more than one room in them. So if we were seeing developments that were on the market that had multiple bedrooms, we were going to be very interested in that. These projects were designed to be implementation ready, as I just said. And what is significant about that is that the way we were thinking, again, in partnership with the city, is that we wanted to move faster than anybody's moved before, because again, we want to demonstrate to the legislature that when we come back to them for money, that we're a good bet on making sure that we're making change in our community, that we're having big, immediate impact. So what that meant on the implementation ready is, just as an example, we didn't consider for purchase anything that would require significant rehabilitation, because we don't have the money and we don't have the time. So we were looking for very, very specific kinds of projects. So, I don't know, is it the next slide? I'm on the list of priority housing projects on slide 4. Thank you for numbering them. That's a good man. All right. So you'll see affordable housing, preservation of or expansion of affordable housing. This was our purchase program, transitional housing, and then the infrastructure for housing. That was not an, that was, it became part of our discussions with the state, because they really understood, and I have to just say Secretary Nair has been amazing. They really understood that we have some projects that are just stopped because even if the property's owned, if you can't get the money for the infrastructure, you can't build especially affordable housing, because the amount of money that's needed to bring down the cost of those units just can't be done in a traditional way. Something we would expect from a for-profit, for example, or market rate developer. So infrastructure for housing, and I was excited that the state actually said that to us, like, what about infrastructure? It's like, well, we can spend that money too. All right. So on the next slide, this is slide 5, what you'll see is our proposed BurnCo priority housing projects, and you'll see our affordable housing projects overview on the very next slide. The reason that what we've given you is the list that was shared with the commission, because we just wanted to demonstrate that we really were asking for a partnership from the state. And I want to just reemphasize one area. When the original list was developed in partnership with the city of Albuquerque, that list had projects for us that were not just in the county, they were obviously going to be in the city. We split that list, again, in partnership with the city, because you've already done such advanced work relative to Gateway and other projects that you were already invested in. I know that played a big role in the way you were thinking. For us, what this allowed us to do was to really take a look at the system, again, in partnership with the collaborative and the city, and then be able to fill in the blanks. So there are some pieces, for example, that you may have done some work on and already made an investment in, but they ended up on our list because we were trying to get them over the finish line. So let me go to page, I'm going to go to page, yeah, I'm going to go, well, 7 is the preservation projects. You can read those. So if you want to ask about a particular project, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about where we are. But you can see the list of our projects. We presented that list to the commission. We asked the commission to give us the ability to be able to both receive any money that applied to any of these projects. So we would be able to receive it and spend it as soon as that money came in, because again, we're trying to take off as much time as we can for these projects, because we know they escalate annually, especially the construction projects, at a minimum of 3%, and that's not counting the tariff situation that we're in right now. The last, on slide 9, what you're going to see is just one other issue that I want to be able to explain. The way we're looking at AMI is interesting and important because the county has the housing authority under the county. So the county has a housing authority under us directly. The federal government focuses on 50% and below of AMI. And that's the area median income. And when you look at the slide, what you can see is for a family of 4, you could be making $32,000 and still obviously qualify for being high need. If you look at that 50% ratio, it's $45,000. And again, I'm using the 4-person household. I'm sorry. So you have 2 kids and maybe 2 adults in that household. What we recognized here is that we both needed to leverage the opportunity we had to work closely with our own housing authority to be able to expand and maybe combine some programming, but also recognizing that we have to figure out a way to make sure that all of the housing, not all, the housing developments that we're investing in directly from the county, that we're looking at a range of people living in them from 30% to 120% of AMI. And the reason for that is that we know that children in particular do better in mixed income households. So as we're housing them, if we want to see children achieve and thrive and stay in school, that we really needed to be hitting this 30 to 120% of AMI. And the other thing is, we're trying to make sure that each individual building is the financing is structured in such a way that we're not going to have to come back either to the county or the state for money for repairs to that building. So we're creating sinking funds and investments that go directly to that building. The reason that's important is that if when we're going back to the state, we're continually asking them for money to fix up a housing development, that's money that we can't go back out and start to expand the pool of affordable housing because it just holds us back. We'll tell you how we're doing on this, but this is one of our goals. And then let me just talk about next steps. In June, the county submitted our list of projects after our commission had an opportunity to vote on them and give us direction. Depending on the awards we receive, we're going to proceed with acquisition of properties. We're going to get the money out the door as quickly as we can. And we're going to make sure that we're distributing funds to all the parties that need those funds so that we're not project blocking anybody, that they are able to move. And that one of the things that was incredibly important to us was when we were working with the state on the strategies around reimbursement, what we didn't want was to end up with any kind of agreement that said, if you spend money before a certain time, like once that agreement's signed, we want to start spending money recognizing we're going to get that reimbursement and really counting on the state to reimburse us quickly enough that we're able to, not negatively impact our cash flow, as I have also been directed by my commission, which I understand. And then if additional funds are identified and we attach the state's press release, and I just wanted to thank Samantha, I read it really quickly, so I missed the part that said for the next round of funding, the additional funding. And so what I wanted to say is that for us, what we'll be doing is any of the projects that were not accepted by the state, we're going to reconfigure and determine whether or not these projects still have significant meaning to us and be prepared, again, in partnership with all of you, to make sure that we're reapplying for those resources as quickly as possible. Because frankly, I want to keep putting the pressure on the state to keep funding us because we think that's a very important cycle. So I know that is an awful lot of information. And Marcos, did I miss anything that you want to comment on? Nope, you're good? Okay. And we're happy to stand for questions.
Thank you so much, Madam County Manager. I think it wasn't too much information. I think it was perfect amount. I really feel much more informed, and we like to hear processes and how they're going. So thank you very much. Very exciting. Does anyone else have questions, comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
This is Barbara
Sure.
Baca.
Yes. Sure.
I really appreciate, Madam County Manager, that you added to the slide at the very beginning about our good neighbor policy. We've been talking with our community on this laundry list, or the menu as we were calling it, of a large number of projects that we put forward to the state. But now is when the rubber meets the road, so to speak, and these get awarded. So I would just, this might be silly, but on your next steps, I think one of those bullets need to be engage the community. Because, we're gonna buy these, but as we're buying these, and we know that they're already zoned appropriately and all of that, they're gonna work for this transitional housing. The community needs to work with us to get their arms around this idea of building these transitional and affordable housing is good for their neighborhood too. They're good for the community. So I would just ask that if you give this presentation again to some other group, maybe a fourth bullet there between
A little picture of.
first and second, or
And I'm
second
going to put your
third.
picture right there. Commissioner, thank you. That's good feedback. I will say too, just for the benefit of your colleagues, we have begun that process, as you know, of community engagement. And Dr. Everett Hill is helping us do outreach, because one of the things I just want to acknowledge is that we're going to try some things and we're going to get some things really right and we're going to get some things not right. And so we want to make sure that the relationship we have with the community is one that we can very honestly go back and say, we tried this isn't working. We're going to have a new approach. So I do recognize that this is very living. The other thing I didn't add to here is that that we are still having to figure out internally before we bring something to our full commission is that we want to make sure we can assign money to each of the projects that the community, along with the new neighbors, share in figuring out how to spend. And so again, especially when we're working within the city of Albuquerque, we'll be working closely through the CAO and also directly with all of you to make sure that if we're in your communities, we really are looking at what are some significant improvements that can be made, because what we're thinking is that part of how we demonstrate respect for the neighborhoods we're operating in is both making sure that whatever we're putting in that community is something that we would live next door to. But the second thing is that we are making an investment that the community understands that the relationship is real and meaningful, and we recognize it will be long-term.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Commissioner Barboa, this is Samantha Single. If I may, I just wanted to give us an update from the city of Albuquerque as it relates on the topic.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you. So I appreciate that we've had an excellent working relationship and opportunity to work with my colleague, County Manager Cindy Chavez has been an excellent key partner, bringing her expertise and experiences from her other experiences in another state. I just like to say another state instead of.
Fair enough.
And so, but wanted to speak to a bit of an update from the city's perspective. We have a similar experience that the county manager had in terms of working with Secretary Nair to understand exactly what the priorities were from the administration and the state administration, and went through an extensive process. Our Department of Health, Housing, and Homelessness actually spent much time working with Secretary Nair because, as you all know, she has intimate experience with the city previously and had been part of much of the design of what this administration had created around both services to our unsheltered community and an unhoused community, as well as ours as housing. I was pleased in this process that our city council made an update to our procurement purchasing ordinance as it relates to affordable housing. Councilors identified an opportunity for us to more closely match, I think, similar to what the county has done in terms of qualifications. And that learning was really valuable and important for us as we saw that the council pass that new updates to the ordinance. It gives us more flexibility related to affordable housing and the ability to move forward. Our request to, or inquiries and proposals to Secretary Nair were extensive in terms of how we worked through that process with her. We anticipate having a real clarity about projects and the funding that will come through. We have agreed through our language in the drafts that we will work with them about communication related to projects that are funded, and we're anticipating that hopefully we'll be making additional announcements next week. The projects that we submitted were related to both purposes within the language, in that legislative language, which was related to serving individuals in the unhoused and providing housing, both services and housing. And we anticipate their support based upon that, both of those missions. We also worked with Cindy's team to make sure when we got feedback around sending funding to the city or the county, does it matter where the dollars go if it's coming into the county, Bernalillo County, and the city of Albuquerque? And I've been clear that our focus has been ensuring that funding was coming to this community to serve the needs that we had here. And as a result, some work on, we each had projects that we may have had different phases of a project on our lists, and for efficiencies and other benefits that were identified in the process, we were happy to have projects potentially funded through the county that we had advocated for. And so with that, we will be sending forward, once we have final information, for our city council to consider, obviously, the appropriating language that allows us to accept and expend funding when we have that clarity from, absolute clarity from the state. And we'll do that promptly to ensure that those projects that get funded will be activated quickly. That's all I have at this point.
Thank you, Member Single. Any questions, comments? Thank you for that.
Thank you, great work.
Wonderful, great. And I just want to close out by saying this conversation by saying, I think, I can see a huge difference, especially over the last 2 years, of how the county and city have been working even closer. I know it's always been, but even more collaboratively, more assertively and intently over communicating and working together. And I think we're seeing the results of that, where things are just more aligned and moving. So thank you so much. And as Commissioner Barbara Baca always says, we're stronger together. So thank you. We'll move on to the next item, 4C, which is the Academies of Albuquerque. And we have, I believe, Deputy Superintendent Dr. Randy Malderween and Assistant Superintendent Marco Harris, and possibly Director Shelley Kibinuan to present. Sorry if I butchered people's names.
Chair Barboa, I don't see anybody rising here. Are they potentially online on Zoom?
Yeah, it's just, that's the names I have. I know we reached out. Maybe Julie or Javier have more info if they responded. I don't see anyone online. Let's see, who are the? We have 7 participants. But no, none of them. Oh, Counselor Grout is still in the room, the other room, but I don't see any of them.
Madam Chair, we just received an email from Vice Chair Jackson, and that we can share with you, but they were not available, from what I understand.
Okay.
So we don't see them online, obviously.
Well, let's work hard to try and get them on next time. I do have some big questions. I'll just mark them here. Maybe I can touch base with Superintendent Marco Harris, or maybe the board member, the APS board members on this. I did get recent news first that the county runs the Youth Detention Center, Youth Services Center, but there is APS holds the education portion for the Youth Services Center, our juvenile detention facility run by the county. So APS runs that. We've seen improvements recently to youth being able to access their education, which was both a county and APS problem. I think they're working some of that out. But what I did also hear recently was that there is when students are let out of detention, then they often it's hard for them to just jump back into one of the regular public schools because school's been going and they're often not in a rotation or don't come in right at the time that things are new. So there is a Quest school. There's been different names for these sort of supplemental schools. I don't know the right language for them, but they are schools that can help young students that are leaving incarceration or for whatever reason needing that extra support to get back into the rhythm of school. And what I learned recently, first that they were going to close it. I think I raised some flags, or others did, and I heard that they are not closing it, but that they were moving to all online education. And I think this is very problematic especially for this particular population. I think we've learned over the years that education, everybody learns differently, and it's hard to capture everybody's needs, but I think we can clearly say that online education is, takes a certain person to be able to capture everything online, and I don't think this is the population we should be chancing that with. That's my opinion, and I'd love to hear why they're moving in that direction for this population. So I'm going to say that now. I'll also try and give a heads up to Superintendent Harris, and hopefully we can have them on next LGCC meeting in October. Any other comments or questions about the Academies of Albuquerque? Okay, we'll move on to item 4D. September is Recovery Month, and we have lots of activities coming up. I wanted, since we won't be meeting again until October, to make sure that we got to hear about the different activities coming up for Recovery Month. We can start with, I believe Erica Beta is present to present on Keep Enema Alive and some of the events we have coming up in September.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm excited to announce that Keep New Mexico Alive, with the generous sponsorship and support of Commissioner Barbon, will be hosting the Keep New Mexico Alive Family Fun Night, which takes place on Saturday, September 21st from 6 to 10 p.m. at the Explora Science Center. The absolutely free event will be focused on connecting and celebrating individuals in recovery, the family and friends who support them along their journey, and the agencies and organizations that have stood alongside them. There will be exhibits, music, food, community resources, and ultimately, a wonderful time for connection. I hope you will take the time to join us at this event, not only to connect with individuals that are in their path to recovery or alongside them as they're maintaining recovery, but also to help to spread the word. We want to reach as many community members as possible. Oftentimes, there are so many events that take place in our community for professionals, but never really to celebrate recovery to this extent. And so we want to bring together community. Together, we believe we can keep New Mexico alive. I stand for any questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Abeta. And I've had the pleasure of working pretty closely with Ms. Abeta. We've shared tears on our loved ones and people we care about. And that's why it's very important to me that the recovery, whether it's because you're in recovery or you're seeking recovery or someone you love is seeking recovery or you're taking care of your grandkids or you're someone like Ms. Abeta who is working with such great passion in this work in this field. We want you to have a good time, have a time to celebrate, connect, and just have a good time. So we're opening all of Explora out to all folks in the recovery community. I hope folks will get out. We do have an RSVP link so we could plan ahead and make sure we have enough food and non-alcoholic drinks and good time and enough swag or whatever to share with our communities. So please, you could go online and at keepenemalive.gov. Is it .org?
.org. And I also brought flyers here if anybody wants to share them with your networks.
And I invite my colleagues just to come and really see. Young adult court folks are being invited. I invite my colleagues to please join us and help spread the word. Let's celebrate and build connection around the issue of recovery, substance use disorder, our brilliant field of folks who work so passionately. We want to celebrate all of it. So please make it out. And Erica, I'm not sure if you have any information about any of the other September events, but we can also, or where people can find them if they wanted to find out about events happening throughout September for Recovery Month.
Yes, and we want to echo the message that change is possible and change is worth it.
Thank you. Is there a place, Erica, where people could go to find events that are coming, like maybe recovery with?
I'm sorry, what was the question, Madam Chair?
If there is a place, like a website or somewhere that people can go to find events, recovery events for the month of September?
I know the city is also hosting Albuquerque Celebrates Recovery now in September. Ellen, where is there information on that? If you could speak to it.
Madam Chair, actually, Erica's part of that committee too. So it is a city, county, community committee that's been going on for 10 years. So this is our 10th annual Albuquerque Celebrates Recovery, and you can go to abqrecovery.org. We have an art show on September 5th, the main event on September 12th. Erica does everything. I don't know why she's not mentioning these things. And we also have a recovery powwow in the plaza. So it's abqrecovery.org. Thanks.
Absolutely. We've got to share the spotlight there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Abeta. And I know when I had spoke originally, when Member Jackson and I, Vice Chair Jackson and I came up with the sort of agenda for the year, she had talked about hearing from APS, but it looks like we don't have folks there tonight, but maybe we can hear from them next time. Is there any other cross-government collaborations or anything that folks want to announce out for September or October or the upcoming months?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think just want to share we're working on International Fest. Commissioner Barboa and I, just to bring some love to the International District. So that will be September 27th, the weekend after the Keep Animal Alive event. And it's really just to bring, all of us together to have some fun in the ID at the beautiful new reopened Phil Chacon Park, which I'm really excited about. And so we're looking to activate all of those spaces that are at Phil Chacon Park, from the orchard. We have a fruit garden there where you eventually can be able to pick fruit and eat it. We have a pump track, so we want to do some contests there for BMX bikers. We're looking at futsal. We're going to do a county versus city kickball competition. So we need some of us to step up and play on our teams. It should be really fun, just to really also promote the collaboration and a little competitiveness at the same time, in all fun, and just a way to bring us all together. So that'll be September 27th, and I think we're going 3 to 10. I think, yeah. So it'll be fun. We're excited.
Thank you, Councilor Rogers. Yes, come watch City versus County. Go County! Okay, we have our last presentation, which I'm excited to hear from Ms. Ricky Lee Chavez about our legislative session interim. Anything that's gone on related to this in the interim, or what might be coming up. Thank you and welcome, Ms. Ricky Lee.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members. Just want to do a quick sound check.
Sounds good.
All right.
Yes,
great. Thank you again, Madam Chair and members. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Ricky Lee Chavez. I'm the founder of Capital Counsel and Consulting. I have the privilege of representing Bernalillo County's Criminal Justice Coordinating Council before the state legislature. And we spend a lot of time doing work over the interim as well for our clients. And so I appreciate the invitation to come this evening and give a quick update on the legislative interim. Our legislative interim runs from the end of the regular session through the calendar year. So we're pretty far into the interim. What happens every August, and I'm sure you've seen this in the paper, is our folks at the Legislative Finance Committee get a revenue estimate for the next fiscal year. So that came out this week in Las Cruces before the Legislative Finance Committee. And that revenue forecast shows that we have $485 million in new revenue. So we continue to see forecasts that show growth in our state budget. And we actually also saw more growth in last year's fiscal year than was anticipated. The growth that we're seeing this year is smaller than that of the previous year, but it's still significant in that our folks that are providing these estimations to our finance committee continue to recommend that we prepare for the time when we stop seeing those increases in our revenue. And so that message was repeated this week because these the excess is starting to slow down, and we're not seeing large numbers or numbers in the billions like we have in recent years as far as new money. And so that was the main takeaway, I'd say, from this week's Legislative Finance Committee in Las Cruces. In early January, the folks that put these estimates together will meet again to review and analyze the information to see if outside impacts or state impacts have changed that estimate before they start their 2020 session regular work, which will be focused on passing a balanced budget for the upcoming fiscal year, which will start July 1st of 2026. Additionally, as you've likely seen in the news, is the contemplation of holding a special session before we get to next year's regular session. The special session is called at the pleasure of the executive. So Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham has the authority to call the legislature back into session, and she would set the agenda for that session. We've heard that the special session is right now being planned to take place at the end of September 25th, and would last for approximately 2 days. And the focus of that special session, according to the executive, would be to address the federal funding shortfalls that New Mexico is likely to experience following the passage of federal legislation that's known as the Big Beautiful Bill. There is a little bit of discrepancy between our legislative and executive branch about whether or not the special session is necessary in late September, early October, when we would start another budget session in January. So I note that for this group, Madam Chair, because we might not see a special session, but right now, I think that is the plan, for a special session to be called to address that federal funding shortfall. And then my third item that I wanted to highlight is this federal funding shortfall, because I think it's significant to the Bernalillo County area and the member groups on this council. So as I mentioned, the Big Beautiful Bill did pass, and New Mexico has a significant population that relies on social programming, such as food assistance through SNAP, and also Medicaid for healthcare. The BBB seeks to impact those programs and take funding from those programs over a 10-year period. And so our folks in the legislative and executive agency space expect that there will be a $200 million shortfall for the next 5 years for New Mexico for these programs. And we need to, as a state and through our state legislature, be prepared to address that immediate shortfall, but also recognize that agencies and experts who participate in some of these program spaces were predicting growth in these enrollment in these programs. And so the thought is that the impact would be more significant as time goes on, and that as some of these funds are rolled back, you would see more people needing to rely upon additional programming and support. And so that number is something that I think we'll expect to see continuously fine-tuned by our legislature. Lastly, I would note that our upcoming 2026 regular session is a 30-day session. It's meant to focus on budgetary issues and whatever is on the call of the executive. So Governor Lujan Grisham, this is her final year in office and her final legislative session, and she will have the opportunity to set that legislative agenda. She is term limited per our Constitution to seek a consecutive 4-year term. And so we will also have a competitive general election in November of 2026. And it won't just be our governor that is up for re-election, but also all of our statewide offices, as well as all 70 House of Representatives seats. So I anticipate there will be quite a bit of dialogue and bills that are not necessarily tied to the budget in 2026. And so I think this will be a very busy year. And Madam Chair, I think those are my highlights. I'm happy to provide more information or answer any questions, but I also recognize that you all have had a full agenda this evening.
Thank you, Miss Ricky Lee. Always, Travis. I just like saying Ricky Lee so much. I did have a quick question. I believe I heard. I'm not sure if you know the answer to this. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but that some of the efforts that our legislature has done to like get reimbursement rates up to 150% for behavioral health programs or for behavioral health providers, that definitely impacts us in our efforts on this committee to bring more behavioral health to our communities. The hope was that with those bigger reimbursements, more providers will be available. I did hear that those are going to be some of the first cuts from the federal cuts, that we can't supplement any pay over 100% of what Medicaid is, which is even deeply worse than what percentage of Medicaid is. So I don't know if you have any of that information to share.
Madam Chair, I don't have specific information about the cuts to that specific programming, that specific program's reimbursement rates. I do know that what has been relayed by the economists that are providing updates to our federal funding stabilization subcommittee is that all of these impacts are right now scheduled to start taking effect in 2028. So there is this like ramp up period that they're looking into. And so I don't know if that's something that is being factored into what needs to be shorn up with state funds. But that there is this kind of ramp up time to address some of the funding shortfalls that states would see.
Thank you so much. Any questions from my colleagues? Wonderful, and thank you for sharing the information that you know about a special session. I know that so much of that has been geared towards the public safety and addressing crime in previous sessions. Seems to not have gone very far. Hopefully this can focus on, but so far it sounds like what you heard, that we'll be addressing shortfalls mostly around healthcare or other public benefits. Is that accurate?
Madam Chair, members, that is correct.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. If there's not any other questions, we'll release you.
Thank you for accommodating my online appearance and presence. I appreciate it.
No, we love having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Members, if there's not any other questions, the announcement of the next LGCC meeting will be Thursday, October 16th, 2025, LGCC meeting at 5 p.m. at Ken Sanchez Commission Chambers. And if there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.